Hello, SMITE fans. Welcome to this week's, or I guess, bi-weekly patch notes show. This is a preview of the upcoming patch. A lot of changes coming your way, guys, as well as the addition of Ravana, the King of Lanka, and, well, an all-around badass. You'll see a lot about that. You just saw his character model on that loading screen. And, well, we're just a few minutes from getting underway with everything, but before we get into the PC side of things, a quick note about the Xbox. For those of you that have been playing on Xbox, it is going to be patching up to the Ratatasker patch here in the next couple days, and you can find those patch notes available on YouTube at /SmiteGame, youtube.com/SmiteGame. You can check those out with Scott and Amanda. And, well, in addition to that, on Xbox, we also have a promotion going on our Instagram, which you can find at instagram.com/SmiteGame. Following us on Instagram will get you an Xbox One beta key. That's on its way as well. So if you don't have that key yet and you're looking to get into it, and you like cool pictures with filters, I guess Instagram is a place for you with Smite. Follow us there and see all of our shenanigans and all of the crazy happenings going on behind the scenes on our Instagram. Well, let's go ahead and start talking about the patch a little bit here, and generally speaking, what you can expect from what we're going to be going over today. So a little bit of tell you what I'm going to tell you here. We're going to be going through the God art changes first, as we often do, talking about new God cards, new models, those types of things, any skins and any voice packs coming in. And then we'll get into the details on what the changes are for balance, primarily around kind of more the meta, so to speak. We'll go in a little bit about what that means, what we're going to do with it. A little bit of God balance changes, not so much in this patch, just a couple of notes on that. And then we'll get into Ravana, and we'll take a look at his kit fully in the game and have a brief interview with the designer on that God, who is, of course, Mr. Fishman. So, with that, guys, let's go ahead and start talking about what's in this patch. It is called Combo Breaker. And let's talk about the first thing up on the docket. It's Ao Kuang, the Dragon King, and his Tier 2 skin, as you can see, now resplendent with antlers. And, yeah, one of the cooler God cards. I mean, this looks like the front of a comic book to me. But, yeah, not significant changes, as you would come to expect out of the Tier 2 skins, but some nice updates and some little bit of badassery added to him here. And it looks like he's lost the top of the robe and is going at bare-chested and bringing the fury. So yet another, another one in the line of these Tier 2 skins that, for me at least, are some of the cooler things we add to the game each patch. Very, very affordable, and give you a new little flavor and taste to your God. Let's take a look now at Yi getting a new skin in this patch. And this, of course, we'll get into this a little bit later, but this is a reward for playing in our fantasy game. And there is his skin card. And you can see a little bit of a different mark. We spoiled this in the last show last week, and here he is in action. You can see a little bit of that new tech on his leaf that you guys got in the last patch. And, of course, his new suns. They look like, what are those, missiles, rockets, something? He's shooting down satellites, I believe, in fact, here. Nuclear bombs. Nuclear? One of those. Flying out of the sky. And of course, you know who you get pretty well. But there he is. I called him Orbital Biker. That is, of course, not his name. But let's take a listen to his voice pack, this new ROM skin coming in, 4 fantasy points. Take it away, boys.
Yes. I am the Reckoning. Splendid. Sorry. Wasn't that fun? Good luck. Be quiet now. That's too bad. Spend your time wisely. Silence, dog. Your only purpose is to die by my hand. I use a bow because guns are too quick. You can't savor all the little emotions. You other gods are a plague. I am the cure.
And he's got a pretty nice idle animation at that, doesn't he? So you heard the voice pack there, and saw him toss his bow around a little bit as well. So Yi's skin is going to be available. More details on exactly how you can get it, but it will be through the Pick'em system. And another addition to the game, my friends, Quicksilver Mercury. You know this skin is his recolor. Sweet new card. There it is, a little bit more actiony. I think this was the one, if I recall correctly, where he was like making that big cheesy grin in the forefront of the card. And so you can see actually similar kind of theme here with like showing his path, almost like Family Circus Billy style, but a little bit more referential to the actual Smite art. I think before he's running through the clouds and was given that big goofy grin, but here looking a little bit more like the Messenger of the Gods, Ultra Speedy. There he is. Mercury's new Quicksilver card. My God, is it beautiful. We've really outdone ourselves here. Moving on to the next asset here. You'll have to take a look at my lovely face is what you're going to get to see. So here I come right now. Hey, there I am. So let's talk about the announcer packs being added at the game. So these are also rewards through the fantasy system, and as I've been saying, kind of through the Huyi skin. We'll be taking a look at exactly how you can earn these in the later parts of this patch note show. But for now, let's take a listen to Nox's announcer pack. This was voted on you guys by the community, but yeah, if you guys would go ahead and play it,
They thought they could keep the lights on. Darkness has come! You can't kill what you can't see. Sleep tight. Pentakill!
Oh.
Pentakill!
So scary. So yeah, there it is, guys. Nox's announcer pack. There's a quick preview coming your way. More to come in the future as well. We also have a second voice pack that'll be available through that fantasy system. It is, of course, for the most voted god for a announcer pack by a complete landslide. It is, of course, Swagny. Let's take a listen.
Oh, hey, make it rain. I love it when they call me Big Papa. If it don't make dollars, then it don't make sense. I'm not OP, I'm OG. You keep talking like a bitch, I'm gonna have to smack you like one.
And there it is, guys. Swagny's announcer pack, as per usual. Over the top, yet wonderful. And, of course, coming into this next patch as well in the miscellaneous category, we won't actually go through this in line, but those announcer packs will only be playable for you on your client side. So let's take a look at the actual reward structure and how you're going to be able to get these rewards. So as you can see here, guys, starting up with the Void Worm skin that was available, and of course they've unlocked everything, so you can't see how many points it takes because production is really, really clever. But yeah, you can see Iron Crow coming. I think these are... I want to say we're at 4,000 now, and I think it goes up by thousands alternating there. So also you'll notice in this system is the ability to unlock fantasy points with money. Hey, who didn't want to buy skins to begin with? So, of course, you are still welcome and encouraged to use it for all of your fantasy betting purposes to continue to grow and amass your fantasy points. But we will say now that, yeah, you can also buy your way into this one. And you can see, yeah, those rewards escalate. You can get the Huyi skin and the loading frames and those announcer packs all now available through the Fantasy Point season ticket system. And the new loading frames, as you can see there as well, top and bottom, a little bit different. The Incinerator Agni looking so nice there. And those are pretty early on. Gold and diamond rewards for the higher you get through the season ticket program. And, of course, they evolve at different levels. So the frame that you already have will turn golden and eventually platinum. And another thing to note here, guys, is that these rewards are going to, what's the right word for this? Retroactively apply to your account, I guess. If you already have, 7,000, 8,000 fantasy points amassed, the rewards will automatically unlock for you, or they'll be available to unlock for you. You don't need to continue earning past this point. So, whole bunch new stuff coming that way. Let's take a look at the events tab in the UI here. You can see this is part of the season ticket. There's a lot more coming here. You guys will be able to explore that once the patch ships. But we do want to point out to you here during this preview is that you'll notice that there is a split option now when picking matchups. So instead of having to choose that Team A wins Game 1 and Team B wins Game 2, it's simply that the teams will go 1-1 instead of having to pick the order and getting it wrong more often than not and making yourself angry. So yeah, now it's either pick Team A, Team B, or a split to get awarded your fantasy points. So nice of us. We're so caring. We want you guys to earn your skins, not have to buy them all the way. And yeah, you can see you can click through them. So a little bit of a different UI approach here and some more cool stuff. A few miscellaneous changes, guys, coming in. I already mentioned the announcer packs will only play on the local side. And we went through most of the other changes in the UI systems for the season ticket. And that is your lovely miscellaneous changes coming in the patch. There's a lot more that you can read as well at home when they do release. When we are concluded here, they will be available on Reddit. At our SMITE, as well as our official forums. Well, the Reddit will just link to our official. But you can go there, forums.smitegames.com, if you really want to see what's up. So, moving right along, guys. Going a little bit more into the meat of the patch here. Let's start talking a little bit more about... well, let's go into the game and take a look at it here. We're talking about conquest changes here. So, let's see. First up, I believe we are going to be talking specifically about the major map objectives, meaning, of course, the Gold Fury and the Fire Giant. And how they will interact with players and more specifically lifesteal. So in this patch coming up, you will see that there is a just flat reduction on objectives and lifesteal. So you simply put lifesteal 50% of the value against the Gold Fury and the Fire Giant. Generally speaking, this is going to be slowing down the timings of who, what, where, when, and why can solo the Gold Fury. So a little bit more maybe like Season 0, where characters like Bastet and Arachne were really the ones you were seeing that were killing the Gold Fury, using their minions and things to tank it up instead of straight lifesteal here. But as you're about to see at the 10-second mark, we have gone ahead and what's the right way to put this? Re-added? No, I don't think. Reverted the change to the mid camps here. You'll see the gold camps at the mid lane will spawn at 10 seconds now, in addition to all the other buffs. So a little bit more diversity in the opening, and you'll see them come up here. Another change coming through in this patch is Greater Sprint. Greater Sprint getting some a nerf, really. No other way to put that. So this item is it grants you a bunch of extra bonus movement speed, and also made it so that you did not have an in-hand firing penalty when it was being used at tier 3. That has simply put been removed. You no longer will be able to use this item as quite such a good gas pedal steroidal offensive ability. Sprint was very good, and is purchased generally speaking in the laning phase as a defensive tool. And then transitions a little bit too well into an offensive tool. So you're seeing really what makes it such a good offensive tool, again, being removed in favor of this item being a little bit more specialized. And of course, this goes hand in hand with a buff to Fatalis, which will include a 2-second removal of the in-hand penalty instead of the 1 as per normal. And as you can see there, on her, one of the main things that you're noticing, or you should be noticing, is that his ability to in-hand and backpedal at the same time has been reduced fairly significantly with the removal of the in-hand penalty removed. So double negative there. It's no longer on the damn item. You can't backpedal and fire at the same time. Let's take a look at the Gold Fury, though. As you can see, this lovely on here does have lifesteal. And the Gold Fury will simply just give him half the lifesteal that he would normally receive. She also is going to be changed to act more like Titans in terms of her interaction with player deployables. So gone are the days of, well, yeah, kiting her around the on her pillar. She will now act just like the the Titans on either side, the Chaos and the Order Titan. They walk through player deployables. So Amir walls, Thor walls, on her pillars, those types of things will no longer stop the Gold Fury's movement, and you lifesteal 50% of the value against her. Worth noting as well, the Fire Giant, when he throws boulders at you, it does debuff your healing by 30% already. So lifestealing against the Fire Giant, if you are his primary target, means an 80% reduction in healing and or specifically lifestealing, and a 30% reduction in healing overall. So near complete shutdown of your ability to lifesteal against major map objectives. Now, let's talk about the Hand of the Gods in the jungle and exactly how this is all going to work out. So as you can see here, it's our lovely friend Ao Kuang. And, well, he's going to jungle. So, Hand of the Gods, rank 1. The main thing that you'll notice here is that this only hits the highest HP target and will only hit one target in any given camp. So, no longer can this item be used for, well, I guess lane dominance, and no longer will it be such an effective clearing tool against targets that only have single target damage in the early game. So limiting a little bit your pool of junglers, making gods like maybe Bakasur and Arachne a little bit more attractive with their natural jungling abilities, and overall really forcing characters to buy into Hog 2 that want to jungle. As you'll see with Hog 2, is that Hog 2 now will give you the ability to kill 2 minions. So it goes from 1 to 2 as you rank the item up, and your ability to take mid camps now will be dependent upon your Hog 2. Let's talk a little bit about wards before we go into Hog 3 and its interaction with the major map objectives. As you notice here, Ao Kuang still able to purchase 3 wards, 2 basic wards and 1 sentry, but can only place 2 on the map now. In addition to that, normal wards or basic wards have a reduced radius, as you can see indicated. The sentries are still the normal 65 feet. The basic wards are now reduced to 45 feet. And if you would be so kind as to place one, when placed, wards have a 1-second reveal time. They have a fade time, actually, I guess is the best way to put it. Wards fade into invisibility 1 second after place. So warding becomes a little bit more tactical. Generally speaking, kind of the meta game overall of warding. Warding and counter warding becoming a little bit more interesting. Wards being more valuable. Only 2 on the map at one time. And in addition to that, they now grant a bounty. So as you can see here, Onher's going to take a look at Ao Kuang while he places a ward. And 1 second, and then it's gone. So he knows where that is. Important to note, as I said, wards will now give a 50 gold bounty for being killed. So not only are they going to be more risky to place, they also are going to have a return to the enemy team that's able to counter them. And overall, and yeah, please place this ward, and you'll see that the ward does disappear right next to it. So you can only have 2 active wards out on the map as a time now for any player, down from 3. You can still carry 3, and wards grant a 50 gold bounty as well. So this makes the as I was saying, kind of the meta game for the Guardians maybe a bit more interesting. The counter warding game becoming a little bit more rewarding for them as well. And in addition to all of this, it should clear up some of the vision on the map, making the lanes more gankable, quote unquote, in the laning phase, especially and as the lanes break. So again, kind of you can see a lot of how these changes are going is kind of incentivizing a lot more action in the jungle. So we'll take this back camp here quickly on the Alquang. Well, probably not that quickly because it does only have that Hog 1. And I'll talk about the timers here. So the timers have changed around the map here. It's a modest change, but a meaningful one. I think the main thing that we're showing here is that these back camps spawn at an 80-second interval. So that's been brought down. They're going to be up a lot more. In fact, all of the camps are spawning a little bit faster here. Let's take a look at the Hog 2. You'll see, boom, it hit 2 guys. Always the highest HP target of the lot. And then one of the smaller ones, that's a Hog 2. Obviously still will have the exact same viability, I guess to say, against the mid camps when they spawn. So the interior camps, the red and the orange camp, are going to spawn at a faster rate now, in addition to the back camp spawning a bit faster. So for those of you that aren't among the 25 of us that have played this, I can tell you that it's very difficult to have your jungle fully cleared at all times. There's a lot more to do and seemingly a lot more opportunity cost around what you should be doing, when, where, why, and how. So again, you see that Hand of the Gods being demonstrated there. And that takes us into, I think, the Hand of the Gods 3, which we should talk about. This item has been changed a little bit. So Wrath of the Gods, as it was known, was basically a kind of all-inclusive trump for objectives. Because of its execute at a high threshold, no individual god could deal enough damage to really contest a Wrath of the Gods if only one team had it. So what we've done here is, well, let's take a look at the tooltip in a little bit more detail here. The item now deals 480 true damage, just like all the other Hand of the Gods. It'll hit 3 minions maximum, so up to 3 now with Wrath. And yeah, the target's always the one with the highest health, blah, blah, blah. But it deals 900 damage now to jungle bosses. Subsequent effects from the team on the same target will deal 50% damage. And a 60-second cooldown. So basically what this is getting at here is that now, mid-game, late mid-game, big ultimates, big mage ultimates, something like an Alquang ultimate or a Kukulkan ultimate or a Ra ultimate, very, very high power ults now have a chance to potentially, contest these big damage abilities. Hey, look, an objective steal. Nice. But yeah, so the Hog will no longer be this kind of be-all, end-all trump, right? If you think back to kind of pre-season 0, the road to 100K kind of season where you'd see these, big mid-lane mages, Vulcan, Kukulkan, Ra, that we see less and less of now, really contesting those objectives, Fire Giants especially. So a little of that gameplay coming back in, and of course now that the health bar does update to yellow when the target is at 900 HP. And yeah, so a lot of changes going on in the jungle, a lot more to do, a lot more where, when, and why. So Heavenly Agility, a small nerf just to kind of put it more in sync with Sprint. This item started to really be favored in Sprint 2, or Split 2, I'm sorry, towards the end. 1 second removed from its duration simply to just to match greater Sprint's value a little bit better. A small downward adjustment to Heavenly Agility. The Hasten Fatalis, I touched on this earlier as part of the greater Sprint conversation. Basically, the passive for this item has been doubled from 1 second of negated in-hands to now 2 seconds of negated in-hand. In-hand penalty, I guess I should say. In Smite, when you basic attack, you get slowed by 50%. Hasten Fatalis says that if you hit a target for 2 seconds, you will not be slowed again for in-handing. Chin size. Chin size, basically straight up a price reduction. Very similar to the price increase that it saw at the beginning of this season in Season 2. Big change a little bit for Split 3 to just shake things up a little bit, allow for a little bit more of an aggressive anti-HP stacking item that fits a little bit easier into builds. No real insight into this except for that the item wasn't being purchased enough, and why not revert it? Siege of the Magi, there's a little bit more meat to this change here. Again, it's very similar in terms of the fact that it's a reversion. However, this item now does provide 10 flat penetration. So that's really the big difference here, is that I think there was a little bit of a concern that mages were not going to be as powerful in the early stages and into the mid-game. So kind of once the laning phase was near done, level 8, 9, 10, and going into the early stages and mid-stages of the mid-game, which I guess is kind of fun, they now have a little bit better opportunity to blow up some of these warriors and guardians and make those mages a little bit more dangerous, I guess, through the mid-game. And let's now move over to the Magi's Blessing, another Magi item, but this time out of the defensive tree. This item has seen a price increase. In addition to that, the passive has been increased to 90 seconds before it can reproc. So basically what we're getting at here is that Magi's Blessing, as you saw at the end of Split 2, was really being relegated to this kind of obligatory luxury item where everybody was buying it. All classes, all characters were buying it in their 4th, 5th, or 6th slot. It just gave you so much and made your ability to not be controlled in fights so high. And with its low cooldown on its proc that does grant 1 second of CC immunity, it was activating multiple times in a fight, and that's kind of why you see the passive adjusted, and then the price adjustment is to kind of put a little bit more towards that luxury. So let's go ahead and move on to the Heartseeker. So Heartseeker, this item is going to be changed and really refined a little bit more towards its real intended design, which is you buy this item if you think you're better than the other player that's facing you in the lane. And it's simple as that. You now will be buying the Heartseeker and getting stacks, much more valuable stacks at that, per player kill. This item no longer will stack for farming. You know, it basically just makes it a little bit maybe more attractive to assassins, potentially for snowballing. And really, the analogous change will be made to the Doom Orb as well. Both of these items will now do this style of stacking, which is based on kills, no longer on creep score or creep kills. And again, yeah, if you think you're better, then buy this item because it's going to help you stay better than that other player, I suppose. So, Doom Orb and Heartseeker now for only truly the Thrill Seekers. No longer is it really a safe alternative to some of the other items. But now, welcome back, guys, to the set here. Joining me is the one and only Daniel Fishman, a.k.a. Hi-Rez Fish, a.k.a. designer for Ravana. Yeah. So Ravana coming into the game, guys. You have seen, I'm sure, some of the art being spoiled, some of the cool stuff coming out from him. We'll go into detail of his kit here a little bit. But before we get too deep into it, let's talk quickly through, generally speaking, what the overall goals for this god are. I know that when we talked about him last week, we said, or 2 weeks ago, I'm sorry, we said this god is really inspired by fighting game characters and kind of melee hand-to-hand combat. So tell me a little bit more about Ravana, what you were trying to do, and what you think we accomplished.
Yeah, so with Ravana, he's got this interesting backstory where he starts out as this monk, and then he turns into this unstoppable warrior. Right, so we wanted to bring that home. We kind of used the monk archetype from like D type stuff that a lot of games feature, and so he was our best opportunity to do that.
Sweep the leg.
Yeah, totally. and with that, like we were looking at fighting games. Like, okay, we want a very visceral, like up in your face, hand to hand type god, and that's what we got with Ravana.
So you can see in his recall there, representing kind of some of his lore. So through the not only the passive meter and the recall there. So can you break that down a little bit about how this ties into Ravana's lore?
Yeah. So Ravana is half demon, and he, as part of that, has 10 heads and 20 arms. So the arms got worked into one of his abilities, and his heads got worked into both his passive as well as his recall animation.
So as you can see, guys, we have a lot of attack speed items on Ravana here. He's going pretty fast. But so yeah, tell me a little about what we're seeing here with this passive meter.
So with the passive meter, you build it up by attacking enemies. It shouldn't apply on some targets, but for the most part, you hit somebody with an in-hand, and then you hit someone with a basic attack, and then you fire your 1 for bonus damage on the 1.
Okay, so that stacks up to 8 times for bonus damage.
That's correct.
Now, is it applying 8 additional instances of damage, or is it just strictly bonus damage?
It is modifying. You're basically doing 1.8 or 1.6 actually. Sorry.
Okay.
Times your 1's damage.
So it's and that's after it calculates the scaling.
Yes, I think so.
Okay, so it's base damage plus scaling, then the multiplier.
Yep.
So it actually, your 1 will start hitting very, very hard.
It will.
So his first ability. Let's talk a little bit about that, guys. If you could just mouse over the tooltip quickly, or actually, could you hit the K screen? I want to see the art that we've done. Let's see if they'll do it for us. Hey, cool! Look at that. So you can see the icon's a little bit bigger. So his first ability is
Prana Onslaught.
The onslaught here. So this is. And speaking of D&D, this is very much kind of like a burning hand style of touch spell.
Yep,
let's take a look at it in action, guys. Let's take a look at his first ability here and see exactly what we're getting ourselves into. So let's stack that passive back up and fire that bad boy onto some targets. And you can see, oh man, it's like, is it actually giant hands?
It is giant hands. Yep.
How wonderful is that? So, all right, you can see the passive going up and then fire the ability, and it is literally a like little tiny cone in front of you.
Yep, it's almost exactly a basic attack cone, except it hits all targets in range. And
so it fills the cone, similar to a Wheelix or many of the hit chain characters, Naja, those types of things.
Yep.
So it's a modified bonus power basic attack that fills a cone.
Exactly right.
Okay, great. What's the cooldown on that ability?
Cooldown is 6 seconds. You're supposed to be able to use that over and over. And
okay,
over
yeah.
again.
So it really does kind of become part of your hit chain. So 1, 2, 3, 4 hit, kind of stack your passive quickly and then dump it using the 1. Very cool. Let's talk about a second ability then. As we move past the onslaught and into the overhead kick. Yeah, I think fighting game fans are going to recognize this one. Generally speaking, I know how this one functions. It's fairly similar to Chang'a's number 2 in terms of the benefits that it grants you, but it has an offensive component as well.
Right.
So let's go ahead and fire that one, Fishman, and tell me a little bit about the design and ultimately implementation of this ability.
Yeah, so one of the things we wanted to bring to our arsenal of warriors was an ability to resist burst damage. And that's what this is for, is if you time it correctly, you're supposed to be able to dodge a raw snipe or that kind of mage heavy burst for this brief invulnerability, as well as you can use it to clear the lane as well.
Oh, and yeah, you do get, just like Chang'e's number 2, it does remove, it looks like the back pedal penalty, as well as potentially sideways movement. So it's a pretty good, it looks like it's a pretty interesting, ability to not only deal damage, but kite as well as avoid damage.
Right,
so, big turnaround spell.
It's a very short duration of the movement augmentation, but it's a very powerful one.
We're talking about flash kick.
Yeah.
Essentially here. I mean, it's very similar, right? It's kind of this defensive tool or defensive setup, kind of bait them in, use it, avoid the damage, deal damage back.
Yep.
And it's almost like a trump in many ways.
Warriors are supposed to be in the middle of the fight, and if that's where the bursts are directed, he needs a tool to deal with that, and this is his tool.
He's got the tool. So what we've seen so far, very melee oriented, lots of basic attack focus, very short cone, and ability to avoid some damage. Let's take a look at this third ability as well. This is again Robin, and I'm Bart, and I'm joined by Fishman, the designer on this. And this is the 10-hand Shadow Fist. Tell me a little bit about this one.
Yeah, so this is again playing into his lore of having many hands. He sends a number of them out to attack his enemy, and then more of them come out from the ground to kind of keep them rooted there. This is kind of a catch-up tool. If he's chasing somebody, he has no movement augmentation. Instead, he's just locking them down, hopefully giving him enough time to catch up and drop his melee.
Okay, we take a look at the targeter for this ability here. All right, so you see it's a line attack, and if this hits, it roots.
That's exactly right.
Okay, so it's actually a little bit like Sikkim in that regard.
Yep.
Projectile speed-wise.
A little
faster?
A little fast. Not fastest in the game fast, but pretty fast. Yeah.
Fast side. Yeah, I mean, a little different than Sikkim, right? Sikkim Priscilla obviously is a mage ability, but also has, I believe, the slowest projectile time, or projectile speed in the game. So, and what is this? How viable is this as a damaging ability?
It's pretty effective if you're laning, right?
Right.
But it's more used, especially as the game goes on, for CC. It doesn't scale particularly well.
And that's just a root, not a cripple.
Just a root, not
just
a
the
cripple.
roots.
Yep, you can leap out of it.
And it has a healing component.
Yes, that's right. Enemies that pass through up to 3 minions and up to 1 god give him health return based on level you're at.
Okay, and that's static, or is that scale as well?
I mean, it's percentage-based health return. So
okay, so it's a life steal. It's a built-in life steal almost.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So a little bit of sustain, a little bit of crowd control on the same ability. Obviously you can see the trade-off that could happen there, and you can see a little bit of the combo here as well.
We're expecting players in solo lane to kind of make this their bread and butter, whereas players in the jungle are probably going to use the 1.
Yeah.
So if you're in the lane, this can sustain. It stops on the first enemy god, but pretty potent tool.
What is that hit chain? Very fast.
I believe it's 0.5, 0.75, 1.
Okay, yeah. So really, what I in my at least my gameplays, I feel like hit chains that ramp up, right, seem to be the most effective for meleeers.
Yep.
And so he's got what I would call one of the better or kind of one of the best types of hit chains you could have for a close range, high attack speed melee damage dealer. Almost similar to how Loki's hit chain progresses in that regard. Let's talk about his ultimate, which I basically kind of sold me on the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
It's Ganondorf. That's pretty much all I got for you.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at this thing. So you can see it's got that kind of Loki-style targeter where it indicates that you're going to hit somebody. And let's go ahead and fire it, and it looks like that it's going to pass through here. Yes, indeed, it does. So, yeah, he pretty much just lunges at his target unit, ignoring all others, knocking them back, and then hits them hard.
Yep. And then once he's in there, again, so he can kind of be up in the thick of it, he's got damage reduction from everybody but his target. So that target's still perfectly able to damage him, but the other enemies on the team are going to do reduced damage while that effect is up.
What's the cooldown on this ability?
It goes down. I believe it's
scaling down. Okay.
Yeah, I believe it starts pretty high and then gets down to like 60, 70.
So this is really his only ability to kind of. So you root them, and then you have one other tool to kind of close the distance, and then besides that, not much else going on.
This one's on an old-sized cooldown. So ideally, you'd probably want something like ult in, root them before they can get away, and then by that point, use your
in hands, drop a 1.
Yep.
Stack it up quickly.
Stay on them.
Well, this god is awesome. I really think he's very cool. Well done, Fishman, for your first entrant into the into the Smite game.
Yep.
Lore Pantheon, I guess. All things told here, before we get into the voice pack and before we kind of listen to a little bit more of the flavor of this god, I always like to ask kind of what was some of the stuff that you threw out with this god that we tried that didn't work.
Yeah. He originally was ult, had him do extra damage to his target, what else? We had we played back and forth with adding and removing CC. We had a stun on at one point. We were talking about having his 2 be a leap. We were talking about having his ult be a leap, but ultimately this is what we settled on as the most fun, most visceral.
Right on. And technically his ult is a dash, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it doesn't pass through walls, doesn't do those types of things.
Nope.
Simply just dashes at the target unit.
Which the targeter you're gonna have to learn. The targeter looks like it's the kind of thing you can go over a wall.
Yeah,
you have
but
to have
does
line
not.
of sight.
Okay, so it does. So you can't go over something like a Thor wall or an Amir wall.
Right.
Okay, great. Well, guys, that's your insight, your dev insight into Ravana. Let's take a listen to his voice pack and learn a little bit more about the character of this character.
Bravo. I am invincible. Excellent indeed. Sorry. Good game. Fortune smile upon you. Silence! That's too bad. Devils, take it! Savor this. Don't expect me to wish you health and long life. You will have neither. I stalked the very sun and moon in the sky. You should be no problem.
All right, guys, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed the voice pack for Ravana. Let's take a look at his recolor as well here, and you can see, oh, there he is. He's recolored. Lovely. Doesn't look nice. A little bit of blue going on there. What kind of, like, do you have any input from the design side on what the recolor for your release guide looks like?
Not a whole lot.
I always wondered that, 'cause it's like, man, you know what? I really just don't like blue.
No, it's we have a really talented design, or really talented team of artists.
Yeah,
and they
absolutely.
basically like, okay, so if we wasn't trying to be accurate, what would look the coolest on it? Right?
Yeah, okay, fair enough. And yeah, kind of one more kind of, I guess, overarching question a little bit about kind of the design process is always, like, it's always interesting to hear a little bit about kind of the concept to initial design process and the iterative process there. So, you know, was he always going to be a warrior? Like, was it like Ravana's a warrior? We saw his concept and it was like, this guy is it.
He was always going to be a warrior.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Just looks warrior. He is warrior.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess his lore doesn't really leave a lot of room for interpretation. He pretty much fights,
Yep.
and that's pretty much all he does. Well, guys, that does do it for us here for the patch notes. And thank you very much, Fishman, for joining us and
for
giving
having
your
me.
insight. You can find him at Hi-Rez Fish on Twitter. You can find me at Hi-Rez Bart. Feel free to reach out, guys, if you need anything. That does not do it for us here today, though. We'll be tossing it over to our analysis desk, where it will be the one and only Dry Bear, DM Brandon, and Pon Pon. They're going to be breaking down some of these changes in a little bit more detail and going through expected changes you may see, some gameplay implications, and ways that you can get ahead, guys. So don't go anywhere. Let's take it right now, where Pon Pon, you'll notice, has no beard, like Fishman and I, but he's rocking it the worst out of the three of us. Guys, take it away, Rory. It's all yours.
Thanks, Bart. And yes, as you can see, both DM and I are rocking the beards. We're not going to go ahead and commit that unholy sacrilege of removing the facial hair. But welcome to the analysis desk here. A little bit pseudo after the patch notes. But, you know, with the kind of changes we're going to this patch, we want to bring in some people who, you know, obviously play SMITE at a very high level and want to talk about what those mean for the gameplay. And also, you know, what that can mean for you as a viewer and as a SMITE fan, and what you can use in the game and actually kind of grow a little bit and go into the next meta that might develop coming out of these changes here. So let's go ahead and start here with the wards, because I think that's something that's a little bit off the chain a little bit, and see what that can bring to the game. Now, obviously, the ward vision is being brought down to 45 from 60. That's a pretty big reduction. You'll also feel it. Now, this is the standard wards. The Sentry wards are still at their maximum 60. But, you know, what does that mean for the range? Do you have to change your ward spots a little bit?
I would say so, right off the bat. My favorite ward, you put it at the top of the speed buff, like back in between the wall that leads to the lane and the speed buff itself, and it's not going to cover the whole distance to blue now. It's not going to cover the speed to make sure you get that timer either. So I'm going to have to augment the way that I place that. The hotspot wards, you know, the wards around the mid camps will largely stay the same, but pretty much everywhere else is going to hurt.
Yeah, a lot of the big thing was a lot of characters were able to ward places and be really efficient with the warding. Gold Fury Fire Giant ward could see so much in so many paths that basically you knew where people were just based off where you didn't see them, because you knew where, like, where they could be hidden was revealed entirely.
Yeah. Right. Now, some of the junctions, and as the designers, we actually went through and made sure that, you know, how wide are these junctions and what the range is there. So most of the junctions are between 35 and 40. So you're still going to be able to cover a lot of small junctions in the game, but you're exactly right. I mean, around Gold Fury Fire Giant, those big, open, expansive spaces, you're not going to cover that much of it, and you'll have to decide where do you want to see it. Now, this also will mean you'll get less warning when they're coming to your lane, right? Because they'll be on that little blip in the minimap less time, which means if you didn't see it or you didn't hear the little noise in your ear, you may not know the gank is coming. It's kind of the goal that we had in mind. We made these changes. Now, obviously, along with this, your maximum number of wards placed out on the map at one time is going from 3 to 2. And that's actually pretty important when you're playing. make sure you remember, we'll actually put some systems in to actually help you understand how many you have out. But when you place your third ward, when you have 2 out, your first one will disappear, which means the hard maximum of wards on the map is going to be 10 for one team.
That's actually kind of a hidden nerf to Loki and subsequently Apollo, characters that are looking to split push a lot. But Loki most notably because he's using teleport to wards a lot. So he won't be able to build that network of wards like he would like to cover the options of defense in terms of him being able to use his ultimate and his one to escape from everything without being put in a too terrible of a position. On top of the fact that getting very deep and covering your options for teleport as well is going to be very difficult. So hidden nerf.
Yeah, a little bit of hidden nerf. I think the big thing is a lot of characters are going to be... It's not just going to be a support shop because the support can't do it alone. With the range reduction, with the amount of wards being limited, it can't just be the support. And we already saw a lot of high-level teams passing wards around, but that's going to be even more important now.
Okay, let's go and cover the next two together because they're kind of very similar. Number one, wards will be visible for 1 second when you place them down. So number one, you'll see that they're there, and you'll also be able to counter them if you have enough people attacking them at once. Be able to hit them 3 times. Yeah, super quick attack speed, you'll burn it down. 1 second's not long enough for most people with average attack speeds to take it out, but if you group up or have someone with a lot of attack speed, you can burn it down. And not only that, wards now reward 50 gold when you kill them, both sentry and ward. So what's that going to do?
Sentry wards are going to be really important if you feel like you know where they've been placing it, especially people who have been watching maybe what a team scrim where they're placing wards down. You can actually now be like, okay, I know that I can justify the cost of this sentry ward and get some really good vision and block their vision, and I'm refunded for that if I do well.
That's actually something that's really common with the high-level teams. Most of the coaches show up with like 20 or 30 sheets printed out of the Conquest map, each with different teams on it. Like at 3 minutes, this is their warding pattern. At 6 minutes, this is their warding pattern. And they'll be all over the place. So now having a support go back and get 135 gold sentry ward and getting 100 gold back out of it could wind up being very good for them in the early game.
Yeah, a lot of different ways for supports to get gold now, especially with some of the other changes. But let's hop into gold, since gold is exactly what we're talking about. Gold Fury is actually seeing a pretty significant reduction in what it provides. So not only is the gold coming down, it's going to go down to about 100 at the beginning, which means it's going to be 500 total for the entirety of your team. And that's going to go starting at 500, going up to about 1750 with 350 there. So you're going to see a big reduction amount of gold, but also experience. The experience you provide, and some people didn't know this, before the Gold Fury was providing 200 experience global. Even if you weren't at the Gold Fury, your entire team got 200 experience each. That's 1,000 experience. That's being reduced down to 100. And one thing that's cool about this, one thing we thought about for a very long period of time, in fact, we spent a couple weeks actually going all of these changes, the values actually go higher than they were before. They start lower now, but actually late game Gold Fury will allow teams to come back a little bit more.
I was giving the thumbs up because I've been really excited about the fact that anything that nerfs the duo lane is a buff to me. But now junglers and mids don't have to worry about the Gold Fury as much, so I'm just going to get camped even more.
I think one of the big things is snowballing was a major factor. A lot of teams would be like, oh, cool, mid-Harpy fight won, and we won it at 6 minutes. We can go do Gold Fury, and now suddenly they're 2-3 levels up on the enemy team. That's going to be reduced. It's still going to be a reward for the team that goes to get it early on. But it's not going to be it's not going to be game determining at the 6 minute mark. And the big thing is now late game, there's actually a choice of Fire Giant's a little risky. Maybe we could actually kind of help ourselves get up to the enemy level by going for Gold Fury and catching back up a little bit.
That's fair. But at the same time, like, the early game is going to wind up slowing down a little bit in terms of aggression on the left side. But we have other changes that will make that a little less relevant, which is
Speaking of experience as well, we can talk on one note. The kill bounty experience is coming down. Now, we actually mapped this out to make sure that around mid-late game, it's around exactly what it was before. The big difference here is that it's going to start lower, which means that an early kill won't get you 2-3 levels ahead of someone, which means you come back to lane after dying, they're going to be unkillable at that point. You just lost the lane. It's a significant reduction in the amount of experience you get in the beginning for getting kills. This also will then, by extension, reduce the amount of experience you're getting for assists as well, because it's based on the kill bounty you get from that.
This is actually probably the biggest in the solo lane and the hunter matchup. Right now, how the game stands is if as a hunter you drop first blood or second blood to the other hunter, your lane is over.
Done.
There's literally no way for you to come back aside from missing everything.
Sure.
In competitive matchups, if someone like Allied were to get a kill early game on Shibalanke, the game ended at 1 minute. Like, there was no comeback potential. This should augment some of that trouble. Same thing for in the solo lane. If you have a warrior matchup and you drop First Blood, you were 2 or 3 levels behind and then getting pushed away from your wave. Now, it'll still hurt you, absolutely, but it's not going to be this life-altering thing that has happened to make you not want to play the game anymore.
Which happened a lot as well,
that's
right?
What was happening.
Because sometimes you lose if the Hunter died and the Guardian died, they just take Gold Fury, and that's compounded, right? You got the Experience bounty, and then you got the Gold Fury bounty, and then you got the Ward's dead, and everything starts to fall apart.
At that point, you're looking at like a 5% chance to win. And it was awkward.
I think the big thing, though, coming out of this is that early game comps and late game comps will now actually exist. Where for early game comps were so potent and so powerful, you couldn't really justify building like some of the characters that were hyper crazy late game like Kali without, because you just didn't have the security to be able to carry into late game and make sure that you could win.
Kali's not coming back though. This is not the Kali patch.
I'm not so sure on that.
This is not the Kali patch.
You shush.
Chain size went down.
So if you guys, along in this patch, obviously we had a bunch of skins that were released or going to be released with this patch as well. Some cool content. If you guys are looking for some way to kind of prepare yourself for that, you can hop up on the Gabe Said So Again sale. We're bringing back some old chests. You got 10 gems for each first one of the day. Things planning. Everything is 25% off. There's a lot of stuff you can get in the game right now. So go ahead and hop in, get some gems for yourself, start buying some things, and get ready for kind of what's coming next patch as well. Make sure that you have all the content you need. But a lot of chests being brought back is pretty huge.
I just bought this skin and now I'm mad because it's on sale. There, see, you didn't even have to make a Reddit post, everybody. I just said it for you.
I'm
just
pretty
pretend
sure,
that I did that for you.
I'm pretty sure that's just like all day for our support team.
Yeah, when Gabe walks in, sale happens.
Yeah,
people's feelings are.
Okay, so speaking of Pon, you are a big fan of the jungle.
Yes.
And I know this because he kills me a lot from the jungle when we're playtesting. So let's talk a little bit about the jungle. So some things happen to the jungle. Number one, the Hog. We can start with that, Hand of the Gods. Tier 1 now only affects 1 target, Tier 2 only affects 2 targets, and Tier 3 only affects 3 targets. This matches up. It's kind of cool that way. So obviously the damage didn't change at all. It's 488 all ranks, obviously dealing to jungle camps and jungle minions. One of the beauties of this is it's going to change a little bit about how you use Hog in the lane, specifically the solo lane, and also how you use the double Hog kind of situation from jungler and solo in order to interact with jungle buffs you're taking away. So, what is this going to do at a base level?
I think a really big change is going to happen is you're not guaranteed to have 3 hogs on the map at the start. So you're not guaranteed to clear the entire buff camp jungle out and leave essentially nothing for the jungler so that he has to leech. A lot of time you saw a jungler go into the lane, leech for a while. Jungle going to the mid lane to just leech, and that's all it was. Now there's
oh my.
Oh, Mountain Goat.
Oh
Mountain
my.
Goat, no.
What is that?
Can we?
Mountain Goat. I posted that picture. Mountain
What
Goat's
is
been
Mountain Goat?
He's
a person.
He's a person. He's a mod. He does the things. But he is a fan of.
Person.
He's not
What's
a goat.
Mountain Goat?
He edits pictures. He is the one that did the Emoji DM face.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, you didn't see?
No.
I'll have to show you.
Anyways,
right.
jungle camps.
Anyways, jungle. Basically, the jungler now has more things to do. When mid harpies come up, they can the side camps are going to be coming up. They're staggered. They're no longer all coming up at the same time. So there's more to do. There's more kind of strategy in how you want to clear the jungle, how you want to move through it, and that also means there's unpredictability where the jungler is, especially combined with the ward changes. So the jungler should have. It should be a much more in-depth role, and it should actually have much more strategy to it as to what you're going to execute.
It's also going to affect a lot the solo lane, right? You're a big fan of the solo lane. What's this going to do for you in the solo?
First things first is mages get to come back. Aphrodite, Chang'e, Ra. Probably your 3 most notable. After that, maybe Janus as well. Right now, how the meta stands is if you don't build Hog and they know it, you lose your jungle. They will just walk up, double hand your blue, and then you can't even fight for the enemy jungle. There's no invade potential. Sure. Because from the blue buff, they also control the space to the lane, which means you get to lane late and you miss 2 creeps. It's guaranteed to happen if the other team's paying attention. With the removal of double Hog, which is absolutely guaranteed, even if it's not, I don't think that we get to lane fast enough. We're looking at better chances for characters like Aphrodite, Chang'e, and Ra to come back and give us a little bit more variety in the solo lane, which is not only good for mages, but for warrior players as well, because now you're going to have matchups that are generally in your favor. Again, characters like Ra lose heavily to characters like Osiris if the early game doesn't go exactly how the Ra would want. Sure. On top of the fact that we have a bunch of items that don't get used. Items like Stone of Gaia and Anchile, which are unbelievably strong, but don't see any play because the only situation to build them would be from the solo lane.
Sure. Yeah, I'm a little bit confused. I thought variety was always in the solo lane. I had to get a bad joke in. I had to get at least one bad joke in.
We've had enough with the sale. We've
The
filled
game
our
said
quota.
so, sale. We did it. Now, obviously, there's going to be, you mentioned a little bit on the double hog. There's a little actually added benefit to this as well. There's going to be a hog debuff that hits a target when you actually hog it and it survives, which means that any subsequent hogs from your team only will do half damage.
I thought that was only hand 3. I thought we changed that.
Is it going to? We kept it on all ranks.
I think it's only
Hand 3 applies it. It affects all the other
Yes, the debuff comes from hand 3, but if you hit it, it's going to be the
I'm
following.
a QA
up.
team. I have to know this.
It's basically, it's meant for the objectives, but if you have hand 3, it's going to affect basically buffs as well.
Yeah, I think one of the big concerns was bringing back the idea of, oh man, 5 hog don't get Gold Fury at the first minute, right?
Right.
And that's definitely not going to be a thing, I don't think.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned as well, Hog 3 is going to be a little bit different there. 25% is a big number, it turns out. And so it's actually not going to execute. So for those who don't know, Hog 3, Wrath of the Gods, when you hit a Gold Fury Fire Giant and also the Siege Juggernaut, any jungle objective that is actually a boss, if they're at 25% health or lower, you'll kill them instantly. This is previously. Now what we've changed this to is it's actually just a flat value. It's 900 damage. Does 480 to jungle minions, but jungle bosses will take 900 damage, which is pretty significant. I mean, that's an ultimate right there.
Yeah.
But what this means, and our goal with this change was to make sure that people that have big ultimates, Raw Snipes, Kukulkan ultimates, those kind of big Krakens and stuff like that, have a contention against just Hog, right? Because one of the worst feelings in the world, especially to me, one of my least favorite things was when you're with 2 of your friends, you're doing the Gold Fury, the enemy Guardian shows up, and you're like, well,
Now
we have
can't
to leave
do
the
this
Gold
anymore,
Fury.
yeah.
I'm sorry, we apologize, we'll leave. But now you have a chance, right? 900 damage isn't really all that much. It's enough for an ultimate, but other people can contend on that.
Yeah.
Another big point to that is a lot of bad theory crafters out there are like 900 damage. Well, I mean, that's a Scylla ult, or that could be this, but the Hog will still have the advantage. There has been probably 10 times in competitive history that a Hand of the God has handed the Gold Fury at 25%. The odds of you hitting it for the full 900 are basically impossible.
Sure.
I mean, at maximum, you're looking at 850. Most of the time, you're looking at 700. With that, things like Raw Snipe become very, very valuable.
Yeah, I definitely don't think execute was to be removed. It's definitely it's good to be able to have some security in what you're taking. And so now if you have that 902 damage, you can still use it. Maybe it's 700 if you use it at poor time. But combined with your team's burst, it's now a team objective to try and make sure you take it. Now, before, I remember back way in Season 1, there was the mages could just come in and always take it, and it was like, man, we might as well not do this. There is still some security in the idea of executing it and having the advantage.
Even with the debuff, though,
Yes.
you had the half damage. If you have 2 Hog 3s, you'll do 900 plus 450. You actually get 1350 damage instantly. If you want to put a third one on it, you're already up to 1800 damage. I mean, it's a lot of damage you can just toss right onto it if you want to buy into it, right? That's kind of our goal with all these changes, that you have to buy into these benefits. You don't just get them for free.
Yeah.
Which is a good idea because it was controlling the meta.
Sure.
It was stagnating the meta, and that was one of the things that made Hunter so strong. Aside from the fact that the Gold Fury now will, 50% lifesteal?
That's right.
Which is a very big deal. Characters like On Her, because she does break pathing now as well from player-created walls, On Her can't lock her into a corner anymore,
Sure.
lifesteal all of his health back. I mean, even if he didn't intend to do it, just get all of his health back. That's such a big deal.
Yeah, so speaking of that change, both Fire Giant and the Gold Fury will now have a flat passive buff to them that says they can only be lifestealed half the amount. So that's half of your current lifesteal amount. So you have 40%, you're getting a lot less lifesteal than you think. And that's just to kind of shift backwards a little bit the point in the game where someone can solo those objectives with the actual benefit of lifesteal, a bunch of lifesteal, right? So you can't just get Devourer's Gloves and at level 8 go and solo the Gold Fury if no one's there because you have lifesteal.
Yeah, a lot of the time you'd have characters that were like, oh, we can't actually go to the other lane at all because if we go there, the hunter's just going to walk over and try and take this objective. So now you have to invest a little bit more of your time, and you can actually choose to make those aggressive plays on the other side of the map with less fear of, oh man, they're just going to get Gold Fury and get this huge gold spike and experience spike.
Now, the Fire Giant, does it still have its healing debuff as well? So you will need to be careful then when tanking it. Like, characters like Bologna will still do pretty well with the Scourge, considering the fact that the Scourge heals you. It's not lifesteal, it's a heal. So you're not going to lose that 50%, but as you tank it, you're still going to get that debuff. So it's important to maybe trade off the Fire Giant a little bit more than was necessary, because before it was just, hunters have attack speed. I will just strafe left and never take any damage.
Yeah, for those of you wondering, the Fire Giant, when he hits you with an attack, actually reduces the amount of lifesteal you're receiving, actually all healing, including healing abilities, by 40%, and also the amount of damage you deal by 20%. So it's going to be a little bit different, right? Because that means plus the passive bonus is 90% reduction in lifesteal and healing. Just lifesteal, healing will only be 40%. But that means that whoever's tanking it really has to make the decision to tank it. It can't just be your hunter, and your Guardian may not want to either, so it really depends on who you're looking at to have tank that. Now, obviously, we talked a little bit quickly. Let's kind of run over this briefly as we have only a few moments left on the show today. But the jungle camps now being moved a little bit on where they respawn.
Right.
The blue buff and the purple buff are coming back at 3 minutes instead of 4 minutes, which means they come back faster. The back harpies will be coming back 20 seconds sooner. They were 100.
Huge.
Now they're 80. It's more gold for the mid and the jungle, and really anyone that wants to go grab it. The Guardian on his way back from the base or something like that. And along with this, the mid camps are now spawning at 10 seconds, which right off the bat, you have the whole jungle available to you.
That might be the biggest
and they respawn
change.
faster.
Yeah,
That,
is probably the biggest change.
aside from maybe Hog. I mean, having those camps come back up at 10 seconds as opposed to 3 minutes allows for a much more dynamic start. And while the meta did exist when we had them before, there was a lot more invade potential. People had to ward more. But the big deal to me, aside from that, Heartseeker and Doom Orb.
Yeah, Heartseeker, Doom Orb. Now they're more of a, I feel like I'm ahead. I feel like I can win this. And
Don't build them.
yeah, don't build them.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. You have to be. You basically are committing. I am better than you in all respects.
And you're
It's
gonna try
an
and show
ego
it.
item.
Cyclone can build it.
Yeah, probably.
Although he did get soloed last weekend. Yeah. It was actually a really good kill.
Well, that's going to do it for us today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in for the patch notes as well as the post-patch notes analysis. We will be having charity stream this Friday, June 26th, starting at 12 p.m.
that's me.
EST.
Don't eat that.
We're also going to be having that at, that's actually 6 o'clock, the EST. I'm trying to do European. It's weird. And then, of course, right after that, you have the SPL match of Cloud9 versus AFK Gaming, who will be here, actually, in Atlanta. You'll be able to see them up on camera. But that's going to do it for us today, guys. I can't words because words are difficult. But we're also going to be heading out. So we'll see you a little bit later, and hopefully you are ready to play on the PTS actually tonight and going through the weekend to be able to test out the new changes and give us feedback on what's working, what's not working, and what you like. So we look forward to hearing from you, and we'll see you later.